When I introduced the poems that were published in Teach Write, I discussed what a literary journal or literary magazine is and how they're affiliated with academic institutions, universities, colleges, etc. Inner Weather, this, you know, is a college publication that is run by students. And so students select the poems, they get together, talk about which ones to publish, and so forth, and they go through all the formatting and all the publication process. And so this is very much the product of an educational enterprise. Now, I've had 4 poems published in Inner Weather and some stories as well. I'm going to have 3 of the poems in this video because each one has a visual element to it. And so you'll want to look at the poems while I'm reading through them. And I'm going to be commenting on a couple of them to help you to understand why I have them presented as I do. The other poem I'm going to publish separately because it's a bit risque, and I'm going to have to put an age restriction on that one. Now, I would encourage you to pause the video when the poem appears and to read through it for each one of them. See if the visual aspects of it affect how you understand the poem. Now, the first one, Baby Talk, is pretty straightforward because the visual aspect only affects the presentation of the poem rather than the meaning of the poem or how it should be read. The other 2 are different. There's a particular way to read one of them, and there's a particular way to read the other, and there may be a second way to read it, but it doesn't quite work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss both of those after I have given the reading to explain what those visual aspects are about. So enjoy. Baby Talk. Free verse is, like vomit, spewing from mouthy babes who have not yet learned to speak the tongue of poetry. It stinks. Goo goo ga. XYZ. Leaflets aquiver, adorn the canopy of heaven. Tremble, fall. If you think that Leaflets Aquiver looks like a Japanese character, you'd be right. And the sequence of lines that are made to create that character is the sequence of lines that are read for this poem. And so you start with the horizontal one, Leaflets Aquiver, and then the vertical one, adorn the canopy of, and then the last 3 lines are all in the same sequence that they would appear if you were creating that character. Now, if you look closely at this poem, you're going to see that it's actually a haiku. And so I've presented that haiku with a visual element that contributes to the meaning of that haiku if you're familiar both with haiku and with that Japanese character. So I hope you noticed that. Now, as for Stray Thoughts, the next poem, there are actually 2 ways that it can be read. One is the way it's intended, And the other one almost works, but there's a bit of a problem in the middle. And I'll be reading it both ways.
Stray thoughts. A single autumn leaf of amber solitude falling in the forest. A slithering snake abruptly interrupts me with its warning hiss. The teapot bubbles angrily screaming like mad angels from heaven. The clouds resemble a toy tugboat and feathers floating on blue seas. I see the bodies entombed in cold underbrush and brittle memory. My eyes fill with tears for the buried kittens that died in the summer. Stray thoughts. A single autumn leaf of amber solitude, a slithering snake falling in the forest abruptly interrupts me. The teapot bubbles with its warning hiss, angrily screaming like mad. The clouds resemble angels from heaven, a toy tugboat and feathers. I see the bodies floating on blue seas, entombed in cold underbrush. My eyes fill with tears and brittle memory for the buried kittens that died in the summer.
Stray Thoughts is almost a chain of haiku. I say almost because I think some of the lines have an extra syllable or two. But in order to recognize that and read it the way that I did in the first version, you have to treat it from the first line of the haiku being flush left, the second line being in the middle, and the third line being at the end of the line below it, where the beginning of the next haiku starts. And so that's why I read it the way that I did in the first version of the reading. The second reading runs into a problem in the middle when it just sort of ends abruptly without completing a thought. Angrily screaming like mad, what? And that's why that second reading doesn't quite work. The rest of that reading does, but that one place right in the middle, it kind of gets derailed. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, press the button for it and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your time.